I still meet people today who see me first as a critic, and I have never written a critical piece about a film. It took me 8 years from conceiving that character to delivering this first part. And it had to take that time because it had to be written in a certain way. We had to raise the money to make it. It's not cheap. Because we are a phenomenal people. We are not a structural people. Things that are phenomenal are easy for us to do. Things that are structured, that depend on being on growing in bits over a long period are boring. Who can deliver quality? So I want Aloma to be that reference point to say, oh, Chris Ihidero had always said that he could do this, and he did it with Aloma. And Aloma becomes a reference point for anyone that has a dream and wants to do things properly and wants to take big bets.
Welcome to another edition of Frontier Matters. We're live in Lagos today at a restaurant in Ikoyi, on Raymond Njoku Ikoyi, called Osteria de Noni, and Chef Benedict has been very kind to allow us record here today. So today we're joined by Chris Ihidero. He's a writer, director, producer, teacher, broadcaster, and one of those clear-eyed voices in and around Nollywood. Chris has worked across television, film, radio, journalism, and creative training, and his career sits at an interesting intersection. He's of the film industry, that's where I think of him, but he has also remained one of his more candid critics when he needs to be. He came through Amaka Igwe's creative ecosystem. He worked on landmark television, including Fuji House of Commotion. He's written, directed, or consulted on an extraordinary volume of television drama. He has also helped train younger writers and filmmakers through programs like Story and Lagos Film Academy. Now he's moving into feature filmmaking with Aloma, a project that has been many years in the making, and one that seems to bring together many of his long-running concerns: class, survival, urban Nigeria, storytelling discipline, and the future of Nollywood itself. Chris, welcome.
Thank you. As a fan of the podcast, it's good to be on this side of it.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's get into it. You've been inside Nollywood for almost 2 decades, right? Amaka Igwe Studios, Fuji House of Commotion that I mentioned, Hush, MTV Sugar, the writing rooms, all those training programs. But you also sound like someone who has never fully been absorbed by the industry. Do you feel like an insider, an outsider, or something in between, or more uncomfortable than blue collar?
I started out as an outsider. I despised the industry. I remember in my early days, Amaka Igwe used to say to me that, how can you want to do something you so do not like? And I'm like, but a lot of things are wrong. She's like, well, you can only do this if you love the industry first. So my journey to loving Nollywood started because my teacher felt that no matter what your concerns are, you've got to first love it. And if you love it adequately enough, then you can help fix it. So I am an insider through and through. I introduce myself as a Nollywood filmmaker, not just a filmmaker, you know, and I think that that's very, and there's nothing wrong with being a part of something and you thinking that, okay, we can do better, and then talking about that. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm curious because just know that in this conversation, I'm going to be appealing to the more critical side. I'm not a fan of many things. So, did coming through a literature theater background, did it make it harder for Nollywood to categorize you? Especially for me personally, when I see a lot of a revolution of low culture, I would call it, in the industry. Did that make it harder for people to categorize you in Hollywood?
I don't think so. I think how I landed also made it a bit more difficult, quote and unquote. Remember, I have been a journalist, I've been a broadcaster. I was on radio for almost 20 years, even if not in this incarnation, so to speak. And a lot of people know the voice, but not the person, because I didn't go on radio as Chris Ihidero on the latter part of my radio career. And then I was also a journalist. I had a column in The Guardian as far back as 2006. That's 20 years ago. So I've done a lot of things. So sometimes people have to remind themselves. And when you are directing for TV, a lot of people don't know you because TV is a producer's medium, unlike film that's a director's medium. So a lot of people would know Fuji House of Commotion, but very few people would know that I directed over 100 episodes of it.
Wow.
Yeah. So
so that's an interesting distinction.
TV is not a director's medium. A lot of people know me and Amaka Igwe because I talk about her all the time because I am eternally grateful for how that one changed.
I think that's a good point because like some of my favorite TV shows that I watch now, I mean,
you don't know the director.
I mean, the season, So like Landman, for example, I know Taylor Sheridan, who's the producer, but different episode.
That's so. That also sort of, worked that way that I still meet people today who see me first as a critic, and I have never written a critical piece about a film. I can talk about the industry, but I usually don't talk about my colleagues' films because I think, I'm a filmmaker first, and also because my master's degree is in literary history, theory, and criticism. So technically, I'm a trained critic, but I did discover pretty early that critics tend to die poor. And I like money. So I decided that I'm better going to make the products rather than sit and critique.
I mean, we've spoken very movingly about Amaka Igwe. Anyone who's followed you has seen that, you've called her your teacher, your mentor, your boss, and, a creative force. And you've also said that one of the greatest honors you could give her is to make an amazing film, and Aloma is connected to that legacy. So if Amaka watched Aloma, right, what part of the film would she recognize as her influence? And what part would she argue with you about?
She would see the comedy. She couldn't write without writing something funny.
Right, okay.
She was incapable of writing something and not infusing humor. She was a very funny person. If you met her, she was grossly unserious. And because she had this image, remember, she was 24 when she created Checkmate. She was 24 when she created, and she had been influenced by Lola Fani Kayode.
Yeah, mind-bending.
And they met, and it was Lola Fani Kayode that said to her that, oh, this thing, why don't you make it a TV series? So she would always tell me about stuff like that. So she would see the humor in Aloma and immediately say, oh, okay, I see that. She probably would argue with me on how Aloma ends this film because she saw she was an incurable romantic. Right? I get accused very often of not understanding what romance is. My partner would give the world if I could just be romantic rather than once in a season, so she would argue about that and say, Chris, life is hard enough. You should let your audience
Should be an escape.
Should be an escape. I think it can be a lot more. That's where we would. I like tragedies. So that would probably be where we differ.
Okay.
Do you think she would? God bless her. Approved of the long wait and how long this whole process is taking, because if I recall correctly, Feyi told me you were the one that sort of pushed us to start publishing video.
Yes.
His quote was, "You're overthinking this."
Yes.
So, are you overthinking?
No, Aloma. So I was saying just before we started coming on cam here that she taught me something that I wish I could teach everyone, which is that if you want to make content, you have to do it at 3 levels. So you have your trees, flowers, and grass. Trees you do occasionally, flowers you do more often, grass you do every time. So Aloma is my tree. The Alomas take time. It took me 8 years from conceiving that character to delivering this first part. And it had to take that time because it had to be written in a certain way. We had to raise the money to make it. It's not cheap. Aloma is not a film that's going to end up on YouTube unless YouTube cuts me a rather large check. Do you see? But she would also know, she taught me that. she'd also know that what I'm doing with Gold Screen TV and Wura TV on YouTube is my grass. And those ones we churn out 2 in a month. So one takes 8 years, another is 2 in a month. And you've got to do that because we will exist in a space that cannot return revenue for an Aloma on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But it can return revenue for what we do on Gold Screen TV on a daily basis. So as a creative who wants to, I don't know how to sell diesel if you gave it to me. I wouldn't know what to do with it. So if I'm going to make bread and butter of this and, change my life and those of the people I work with, I have got to understand and not be, too strongly attached to only being able to do Aloma, and understand that I also need to satisfy aspects of my creativity by not only doing the stuff I do on YouTube. I must. Nigeria demands of me, Nollywood demands of me that I must be able to swing the pendulum between those two extremes. And when someone commissions me, say Africa Magic or Canal Plus or whatever, then I'm doing flowers where I don't own it, but you're paying me enough to deliver it. So I don't have equity, but what you pay me enough is sufficient enough for me to dedicate the time. So when I did Nigeria's first animation feature film, Lady Bucket and the Motley Mobsters with Blessing Amidu, whose idea it was and had some difficulties with some producers she'd worked with to deliver it. And Ayo Arigbabu, who is a friend and who was writing the script, says to her, go and call Chris Ihidero, Chris will fix it. And she called me and we delivered it in 11 months all through the pandemic. Now I don't have equity in that, that's not mine, but the compensation was fair enough for me to do that work. And also because I had my eyes also knowing that I was about to do something groundbreaking, and we did it. So you've got to be able to swing that way, or else you are not going to make it as someone who wants to live and be critically appraised, but also not want to go cap in hand begging to survive.
Maybe off camera is still gonna teach us how to make 2 movies.
Oh no, I have a template. I can
Working on Frontier Matters, tell me how it takes and how bad it is.
So at the board level, what's your template for making YouTube, content that is
One, I have an amazing team of collaborators that deliver our YouTube content. Our go-to writer, Tomilola Adeyemo, is one of Nigeria's leading romance novelists. And she's an experienced screenwriter. She's worked with me from Hush to MTV Sugar to Forbidden to Lady Bucket and the Motley Mobsters to everything. And in between, she's had this amazing career as a writer. So Tomi either writes or supervises the screenplay. Debola Ognushino directs. Debola has a vast experience directing TV and all of that. Bola Jokwakunbi is the cinematographer. Wale Ajetomobi is the editor. The 4 of them, and then Lara is our line producer who gets us all the fine location, the actors, and all of that. Once you put that thing together and you have an amazing script, it takes Debola 4 days to shoot. So you're shooting and you start editing on day 1, right? By days,
while we're still shooting,
while you're shooting, you're editing. Everybody is on cam, right? But everybody's in cam to get that done. They shoot, and we insist on working only 12-hour days. So it's not like we're shooting for 24 hours. If you know what you're doing, you start actually from the script. So I have rules around the script. Not more than 40 scenes, right? Not more than 40 scenes and not more than, say, between 50 to 55 pages. Because you are trying to land the film at around 90 minutes. Right? So the way you write also, because you're also locked in a location. Most YouTube films will happen in a house, in cars, and in offices. So you are more dialogue driven than visually than you would be in a film you're taking to the cinema. See, you've got to be able to split your head into departments. You have to compartmentalize how we deal. So when my guys are writing, this is a YouTube film. We need to talk a bit more than we would if the film was. So they should. By day 7, we have the director's cut, and then it goes to the online team, sound, music, picture, finishing, and all of that gets done. By day 14, the film is ready to go on YouTube.
Amazing.
Yeah. And by day 7, the team is shooting the second film. See, once the director finishes with the director's cut, he is off to shoot the next film, while the online team continue the editing process and packaging and delivery to the back end, so our technical partners can then pick it up from there and then do the thumbnail, do all of that, and we are good to go. And then the next one, you have to think about it. The machinery we've created at Pinpoint Media is such that you can put, if you put corn in it, it delivers this. If you put wheat in it, it delivers. What doesn't change is the machinery. The end product is dependent on what you put in it. So it's the same thing that delivered Aloma, and it took us 30 days to shoot Aloma, and a crew of 80 to shoot Aloma.
Wow. Okay.
So we are shutting down 2 hotels in Djibouti. We are on the streets at 3 a.m. We are shooting in multiple locations in a day. Lara and Debola, my co-producer, Lara, our line producer, they are moving everything for me to shoot in the market in Ogba, where there is a market going on, and they have to carve a space for me to have. Do you understand? But they are also the same guys that do our YouTube films. What we have been able to do successfully, and I do accept that a lot of people can't swing into this many, but what we're able to do is the training to say, guys, what are we delivering right now? So, recalibrate your brain to what we are doing right now. And then you do that. And then when the next job is a $2 million job, you are not using your YouTube ad for it. You are using, also your brain has to be broken into trees, flowers, and grass. And it's just the only way to survive. If you depend on making 1 tree every 3 years, then you are going to suffer.
Yeah. I mean, so you have. I mean, you mentioned it earlier, but you have 2 separate YouTube channels.
Yeah.
Right. One English, one Yoruba.
Yeah.
What's the reason why you keep them separate? And how do they work differently?
The audiences they are intertwined but also different, and Yoruba films are made very differently. Don't forget that a Yoruba film succeeds by and large with its moral curve. If you remember growing up, there is always a lesson to learn. And all films end in a meeting of some sort. Ìwọ náà rí báyìí sìn, ẹ̀gbọ́n yìí dẹ̀ ti wá dárí jì ẹ̀ sìn, ó yá kó bẹ ẹ̀gbọ́n ẹ̀ ó dẹ̀ ti wá bẹ̀ ẹ̀ báyìí sìn, ìwọ náà má bínú máa ń gbà ní ó yá. For those people in Yoruba, apologies, but that's it. Put subtitles.
Funny thing is that I don't know if he experienced this, writing the blog and 1940.
Yeah.
You get comments like, even sometimes privately, like, okay, so you've talked about, I'm just, stretching out this thing with lessons. You'll be like, okay, so you've talked about your problem. What is the what are you going to do?
Don't forget, there's a reason for it. Life is hard enough. You have asked me to sit for 2 hours to do this thing.
There has to be a period.
So what am I taking over? what am I supposed to be back home and say, oh, I just went there to laugh? There is no lesson to learn in this thing. No, and Amaka Igwe would say to me, Chris, don't bother teaching Nigerians anything. They are going to learn anyway. So don't be thematic. Don't say, oh, this film is so that women can learn to respect their husband, or women can learn. No. Tell a great story. If you tell it well enough, people will take lessons from it anyway. So what you're trying to do, she would say, my job is to enter. To quote her, she always said, I am an unrepentant commercial filmmaker. I make films to make money. Perhaps you would learn something from it. But my intention is that I can make the film so well that you are going to pay me. That's what she used to say.
Yeah.
You know, so the difference between doing for Yoruba and keeping them separate is that the audience for Yoruba film, that is Yoruba movie audience, first and foremost, they require certain things that may not mix very well with the English version.
Okay.
So it is better to just deal with both separately, and those who want to watch either way then will come and watch either way.
Okay. Cool. I mean, before it was screen work, so before you did screen work, you acted in BBC's Yoruba radio drama, Story. You know, I'm curious about where radio gave you as a storyteller. So, you know, where did it teach you about dialogue, the rhythm? So, I mean, you already talked about, you know, if you are doing a feature film, you can rely a bit more on the scenery, whereas for this short YouTube film, you have to do a lot more dialogue. So, you know, what did radio teach you about dialogue, rhythm, style? And again, I know some people might not know, but you had a career in radio, like you said earlier, but you weren't Chris Ihidero. It was just the voice and all that. What did you learn from that? What did it bring in terms of audience imagination that helped you in TV and film?
Story was amazing because it's one of those things that the BBC does very, very well, perhaps better than anyone else in the world. And I am till this day, and this is 20 years ago. I am till this day grateful for that opportunity. In two ways. The character that I played, Wararo, is what he's called. In those days, before we knew better, when we used to call people were imbecilic, Wararo was supposed to be one, right? And in Yoruba, Wararo means gather yourself together. It means that you are this way. So when you know the way Yoruba language is, it's such a developed culture that it doesn't speak straight. If that's a way to put it, it doesn't say the obvious in especially when it could be detrimental to who has to hear it. So when they say to each other, they are not saying that, oh, you are an imbecile. Why are you do? They just say, put yourself together. So I got that character, and I had to speak like I can still remember. So Wararo will say, that's how they used to talk, and I had to do that. And BBC took us to this. We used to be in Abuja, and then we'd drive to Nasarawa. There was this secondary school that the BBC had given a library to. And we used to shoot that radio. We used to see me, I said shoot. We used to record that radio drama as if we were making a film, just that there were no cameras. So if you had to give a line and you were walking, you would actually walk and they would track you with a microphone. So you were performing, so we went in the studio. We were outside and they had built these things. It was such an amazing experience for me to see, just coming back from my master's at the University of Ibadan, to get into that kind of project and to see the level of detailing and all. So by the time I got the opportunity to move to film film and TV a year later, I had seen that kind of world already. I had seen that kind of level of people I was asking for, and this is 20 years ago. No, this is 10 years ago. And I asked her for 10 years ago, I asked her for ₦1 million. And she's like, and I said, I only do 3 drafts. If by the 3rd draft, I haven't locked it, then there's a problem. And you will sign off at every point. You sign off when I give you the treatment. You sign off when I do this. You sign off when I do that, so that we are not going back to it. If you signed off and we have to go back, then you have to pay me to redo it. Right? Writers, if you are going to get a great script, if you work with writers at a certain level, not many productions can do that. So perhaps the problem is also that we expect from the average film great this or great that. It's a different kettle of fish if you watch today, for instance, My Father's Shadow, and then expect that a film that did not have the time, the budget, the connections, and all the mentorship that delivered that kind of film to now be able to deliver. You would expect it of someone like me, for instance, if you see Aloma tomorrow, because I have had experience and success along the line. I can take my time to make a film at that level. Do you understand? So it's not because we have, and also there's a shift in the industry. Remember old Nollywood. If I ask you for your favorite characters in Nollywood, for instance, and I ask you for 10, 8 of them will come from the films you saw maybe 20, maybe 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And why? it's not, those guys didn't have final draft, which is the software we use to write now. What did they have? They were natural storytellers,
Yeah.
and they were telling us stories that we were familiar with.
Yesterday at a wedding, somebody just randomly mentioned Sakubi, and the memory just came flashing back to.
You still think of IMB in Checkmate and Kadiri.
Yeah.
Think of Egoboyo.
Yeah.
You still think of those Fuji Bantefa as Chief Fuji.
Mhm.
I mean, Fuji. You still think of Abija and Orishabunmi. Characters that were created at a certain time by certain. Jimo Ali didn't go to any university. He never did a writing course like we have done. So we took the technicality of writing, but we didn't bring along with it the historicity and the contextual realities of where we are and who we are. So our love stories now look like love stories that can happen anywhere. Right?
Okay.
But the love story between two characters in anything you saw 30 years ago felt like something that happened next door to you. There was a sense of plausibility that you, as the consumer, brought into seeing it. But the more we write now with our software and all, the more we think that we should distance, and we also want a universal acceptance, right? And therefore, we want someone in London and in LA and elsewhere to understand and love our story. What we forget is that our currency is emotion, not intellect. Nobody goes into a cinema to see a film to learn. We go there to feel, right? And now someone is suggesting to us that there is too much feeling, and therefore we need more learning. So our characters, our stories have become templates for the exchange of ideas. This is not to say a film should not contain ideas, but those ideas, we only buy them if we feel. So you are seeing those characters now, they are just, you said they are just talking. Yes, because they are passing a message. They are just talking. We have not put enough emotional effort to them for us to say, God damn, why did this happen to this guy? Have to put ourselves in their shoes. See? And that is what is missing in the writing. Those who can have so intellectualized writing that they have forgotten that what we need to make audiences do first and foremost is to feel. And then we have seen feeling as some sort of weakness. And therefore, we think that our film would travel if we show these people that we can speak this way and our characters can be this way. We think that is what is going to make them, come to us. I totally disagree. And that's a problem with the writing.
How much of it here is just sometimes your labor economics in the sense of there's just so many writers.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to LA, almost everybody you run into in a Starbucks is writing a movie.
Oh, an actor. Yeah.
You don't usually run into directors or,
of course,
camera people. So do you think that writers get disrespected because it's just a low entry? There aren't so many great writers, but there are just lots of writers or people who write.
I think that everywhere you are going to struggle in any industry to find great writers. There are always very few, right? But that doesn't mean that good writing is not available. Sometimes it's also the speed at which we want projects delivered. And I was talking to a young woman who is writing for some influencer, and the guy wanted the script in 72 hours. And so he thought that the way to make that 72 hours is to have 3 writers.
I'm even more surprised if
the influencer wants to make a film.
Oh, okay.
So in his head, the way to make it happen quickly is to have 3 writers. So you write the beginning to this point. You write this. You write that. So you one day, then the film is ready. And guess what has happened? it has now taken the young woman I'm talking to write the whole script.
Of course.
Because the other two couldn't deliver. Because this is, you can see the trader's mind trying to make films, and it doesn't work that way. So there are writers, but good writing is scarce everywhere in the world. And the only thing I have always said, I don't like talented people. I like people who have learned the craft. There is an abundance of acting talent in Nollywood. There is very little of that abundance that has gone through training to have craft. So you find yourself as a director on set. You are now helping, you have to work. And I'm not a director that wants to show you what to do. I expect you to come on set ready. My job is to direct the film and to help you make your performance better. But if I now have to be telling you the basics, it's because you don't have craft. You may have talent, but you don't have craft. So part of the writing problem is because a lot of writers consider themselves talented. I don't like talented writers. I want writers who understand the craft and can bring that to it and deliver a project.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I think we want to talk about Aloma a bit more now. So, I mean, you've hinted at this, that, Aloma is your tree. So technically, I mean, it takes more time. But I really get maybe a bit into, why did it take so long? Was it fear? Was it the economics? Was it perfectionism? Or time? Or were you just waiting for the right structure? What was the specific thing that kept it as a very long project?
Aloma had to be done in a certain way. And that always requires time. First was the writing and all of that. That took a while, but that had been done. I had the script locked down at least 18 months before we now started the announcements and all. What took a while was raising the money to do it. And also gathering the kind of expertise I needed to support me to make the film. Aloma I carry with me the storytelling of old Nollywood because of Amaka Igwe's influence. Remember, I was with her for 8 years. So I carry that and I bring that into the modern times. I bring that into today where I work in my capacity. So I'm merging that in the storytelling, because I'm merging that in the producing and merging that in the directing of it. So it was always going to take a while to get a project like that done. And also, Aloma is not your everyday story where it's boy meets girl, they fall in love, and their parents are not going to let them marry, blah 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 blah. It is aiming at higher selves, if I can put it that way.
Yeah.
And it wants to engage. It wants to talk about society, but it is a love story.
Okay.
And the basis of it is a love between a young man and a young woman, but also between the person and the community he lives with and is willing to die for. And a young woman and her realities, the reality of her birth, father, and what exactly is happening in her life right now. And you put all of that in a Lagos urban ghetto where guns and knives and crime are plenty, and where there are gatekeepers to all aspirations. Everything you want to do, there is someone already waiting, stopping you from getting that thing done. So there are the struggles, but also defined by the beauty. Oftentimes when we tell the stories of our ghetto places, we tell it from a position of crime and degradation. But there is also love and community spirit and acceptance and beauty in that same space. And when we were shooting Aloma, we shot Aloma in Jibo, really, really grateful for the we had 8 streets that we could lock down at any time of the day. And we're there for 30 days. And Jibo...
Wait, sorry. Yeah. Okay, look, I know we're going to come to the boat. Please, the area boys.
Yes.
How did you deal with that?
We did not have any area boy problem in Jibo.
Why?
Because my production manager, big shout out to Muyi Banting, Banting grew up in that area.
Right. Okay.
We were shooting in the King's sitting room.
So you are
Let's sitting room. We're in the sitting room. Okay. Goggles.
okay.
There's a guy called Goggle. Goggle and Muibantin held those places, and there was one boss who was like an area wherever. So he became a member of our crew.
Right.
I found not one disturbance in Jibo. Every time we went elsewhere,
Right. Okay.
and the film, 50% of it is on the street.
Mm.
So, and I was foolish when I was writing. I didn't have my producer's hat on when I was writing. I tried to leave the producer out of the room when I'm writing. It was when we were producing that my line producer said to me, Chris, 50% of this film is on the road. You are shooting in the raining season, and we are going to encounter this and that. I said, but it's too late. We have to do it. So we had access in that Jibo area.
Yeah.
I have not seen it. And you know the crazy thing? We didn't have to do a lot of production design on our exterior scenes because you know that under bridge Jibo, if you just walk in 3 minutes, guys, you are in a ghetto.
Oh yeah.
We didn't have to go look for it.
Yeah.
You can see the expressway and all of that. Just walk 3 minutes into any street, just walk down. You are seeing houses that were built in 1911.
Wow.
And you are like,
Yeah, I remember Jibo. Yeah.
and that's what I wanted I had said in the script, a Lagos urban ghetto. Because I had seen that. I grew up in Oshodi. So I need that space. So it was really interesting to have that kind of support to shoot in those kind of on those streets, to old people from entering their homes at 1 a.m. because we were still shooting on the street, and someone would say, what's going on? And then we bands will say, Farabale, we will be done in a minute, and that level of support was amazing to see. So Aloma needed a lot of elements to come together to deliver it at the level I wanted. And now we're in post in South Africa because it has to be finished at a certain level. This, for me, is that one project you have to do your best to do every part of it as best as possible. You know? Yeah.
So, I mean, if someone had said to you that you make a feature film a few years ago, would you agree?
Oh yes, I'd always wanted to. A lot of people will be shocked that this is actually my first. Now I have made loads of made for television films. I did 8 films for AMC, African Movie Channel they used to be called. I've done all of that, but I also had my career had grown in a way where I couldn't make a first feature film and make a blur film. I had to come correct. So maybe that also contributed to how long it took.
Yeah.
I had to come correct. I had to make a film at the level of Aloma. And it was frustrating when the fundraising was frustrating some years ago, and I was just going to dump it down. In fact, I pitched Aloma as a TV series to a streaming platform. And they said it was too serious for Nigeria and that people just want to come back home from work and laugh and do whatever. And maybe if I could turn it into a telenovela, they said. And I'm like, I'll give you a telenovela, not this one. Not this one.
So what was different about this story that made you convinced that it had to be a film?
Yeah, because remember, story is very important, but characters are more important. You remember The Godfather, not for the story, but for Al Pacino as Michael Corleone. Marlon Brando's performance. Yeah. It's the same thing with a film of this nature. You want to craft a hero that is imperfect, right? But that also feels very familiar, and that if you had made a few tweaks, would have been you. That's what you want to achieve.
Yeah, but for the grace of God.
Yeah. But for the grace of God, that could have been me. And when he goes on his quest, you want your audience to go with him. So Aloma is a different ghetto story. This is not, you can't escape the crime in the ghetto and all of that. But that's just the base level. This is a guy who is intellectual, who is running. So the question is, if you run from life and you become a messiah to others, are you a messiah to yourself first? And how do you achieve messiahship? without the self. My question, I have a problem with saviors. You know, my enemies will say, including our good Lord, right? Right? Because just the idea of saving others seems to me very like, who are you? Have you and how are you saving yourself? And why do people need saving? And what happens to collective action rather than the individualistic, messianic trope of someone coming to save?
Have you met Nigerians?
Because I'm always waiting for saviors, actually. So my big question the film is asking is this. The big question the film is asking is this. Where is Nigeria's turnaround going to come from? Is it going to come from individual messiahs, or is it going to come from collective action? And what then do we have to do as a people when we have heroes and rebels that mean for us as a people, especially when we're also known to kill those messiahs?
Of course.
You know? Yeah.
Okay. I mean, so Aloma is rooted in Jibu, like you said, mainly, and some other areas, half of it, and is a tension between those who have and those who don't have. How did you film how do you feel film an urban ghetto without turning poverty into backdrop or aesthetic, that sort of thing?
It's to ensure that the poverty is not the story. Like when we film rich stories, we film rich people, right? And they supposedly have nuance. But when we film poor people in ghettos, we remove all the nuance and all of that. We just film poverty. And I remember saying to the team that I want this place in its degradation to be beautiful. And I want the people to be beautiful. And I want them to be fully human. And I want the issues that we are dealing with, and I want them to have a voice. And I want the issues that we are dealing with to be the issues, not all of their lives. Which is what we tend to do when we tell stories from these places. And when I did MTV Sugar with Emmanuel Uduma, my second season, one of the things we told the guys in London, Staying Alive Foundation, which is a part of MTV, was that I wanted to take the story away from VI. If you remember the first two seasons of MTV Sugar, if you ever saw MTV Sugar, had posh kids on the island driving these cars and all. And I said, that's not the reality of people those people already have access to family doctors. They will know what to do about contraceptives and stuff like that. We needed to take the story away. So we took it to Surulere because Surulere is a microcosm. It's a small example of the whole of Nigeria because every ethnic group is in Surulere. And those tensions are always there. So we took it there and put it in a public school in Surulere. And that's changed MTV Sugar. And it was that season that when I had to win 4 awards at the World Television Festival in Germany. Because you could tell that storytelling became more personal. You could recognize that world and those characters. And it's the same thing with Aloma. And when we shoot in those ghetto areas, in fact, I said to them that I want this to be as beautiful as when we shoot the villain's home in Ikoyi. It's different beauty, but please let his room not be scattered. Let it be ordered. Let this, we go to the market or we run into the character, Lucky runs into a market. So we run from a street into a market. And I say, it's street market, right? People are selling by the road. But that doesn't mean that it is degraded or their lives are, let's put them in the background, but let them be doing that activity from which they have a worthy existence. And that was very critical to me.
To follow up a bit on Fahid's question, you grew up in Lagos.
Yes.
We shot Aloma in Lagos.
Yep.
So is Lagos the setting of the film itself or just one of the characters? And also, how have you come to see the city itself over time? As someone who grew up, who have seen all these things made, and a lot of things also frozen in place. Everything in Nigeria. How have you come to view Lagos vis-a-vis your work as a creative?
I was born in Oshodi at number 20 in Olombinu Street. And I only say that because when a street is named Olombinu, you know that that's an incomplete sentence if you know Yoruba people. Olombinu will probably be Olorun Erebiko, or there will be something like it's that gets angry. God is fine. There's always Yoruba, in Yoruba saying there is always someone, throwing shade at something. And that's where I was born. And as a child, I used to go to Ansarudin Secondary School. There's an Ansarudin, if you know Oshodi very well, a big school. And I used to go there because we used to do this fighting with rams. And there was one called Black Power. And Black Power was around 10 years old when I was born. And we left Oshodi when I was 7. And Black Power died a year or 2 before we left. Black Power was called Black Power because it was a big ram, almost the size of a cow, but I was black from head to toe. I had no white, absolutely no white, and it used to eat bread. so I used to go, anytime Black Power was going to go and fight some ram, we knew that that ram was going to die because Black Power would kill the ram. So we'll go behind Black Power. I was the kid. Well, go to Ansarudin and run after Black Power and do stuff like that. And would be on the street with my Superman pants and rope fire. Like rope fire on the street with my Superman pants. I would go to Yasemu, who used to sell Amala. And I remember Yasemu's corridor. And I used that image in Aloma because she sold only Amala. Right? But the corridor was so dusty. If you walked through it, by the time you came out, I used to feel like I was white. Because of the and all of that. So that was my world. And that is the world as a storyteller I'm bringing. But that world, and there was violence. Anytime area boys or NURT or whatever were doing their thing, there was. But there was also an amazing life. You could attend the party that you were not invited to right on your street. And there will be music and there will be food for you. And no one would ask who your father was. See? So, yes, and I see Lagos as one of those places that you have to experience. You cannot be told enough about Lagos for it to make sense. I'm always laughing when Faye is doing his Instagram reels and all of that. It feels at once familiar and ridiculous. It still finds a lot of things ridiculous that are very everyday for Lagosians. Because I used to eat rice at 3 a.m. in Obalende, and the woman only starts cooking at 1 a.m. Make it make sense. And there will be some 5,000 people walking around 3 a.m. on a school day in Obalende, because I lived in Obalende a bit with my friend, the late DJ, as I mentioned, on Odo Street, which is where Jimmy Jat also had his studio in those days. So I lived with Abbas for a while in this bungalow house where you could walk all of Obalende by going through corridors. Corridor of one house, get on the street, get the corridor of another house, get to the backyard, and you would a gutter ran under the room. Yes. Explain that when you have to experience Lagos, and I am such a big fan of the urban ghetto world as a story place. Because, not just because it feels familiar, but also because it feels authentic to me. It feels authentic to me in a way where almost nowhere else feels that sense of authenticity. Like people are their full selves, if to put it that way, in that space and the kind of life they live, and it's a life of want. There's a lot that is left undone, both by governments and all of that. So Lagos feels developed and frozen at the same time. And like I was saying, we were shooting in Djibouti, and I swear most of those places looked exactly like that 50 years ago.
Yeah. Okay, so I think maybe we should talk a bit about the financing of Aloma. So it's kind of like, obviously it's seems quite deliberate. Not just find money, shoot, that sort of thing. You have a more structured model with investor accountability. So what did that kind of financing do to you as a filmmaker? Did it make you freer or more constrained?
I think it's a bit of both. I wanted to do it this way because I somehow felt that I had the reputation and I had friends and colleagues and people who had supported my career in different ways that I could go out and look for the kind of funding that Aloma needed and be able to find it. It also meant that I had to restructure both myself and my business. I am a great fan of sharing. I don't own anything 100%. I mean, obviously not my children. Who are my most prized quote and unquote assets. So I didn't have a problem with what I had to give up to have Aloma funded that way, equity and all of that. I didn't mind that, and also because I have a collaborative spirit, which I tend to pull back a bit more these days, because for some strange reason Nigerians think that when you want to collaborate is because you can't do it on your own, and there's a weakness in you that you are looking for. Yorubas will say "Onwa yokunla." I don't know, the English is the poor language. I don't know how we represent that. Like,
looking for people to augment yourself.
So I'm like, no, I can do it all by myself. I just think when we did MTV Sugar, I was already producer, so I refused to write or to direct. And I could do the directing perhaps better than some of the people I had on. But I was like, no, I'm already the producer. That's the highest credit. So let others come and direct. And people kept saying, why don't you just direct it, or you guys would have made more money? I'm like, come on, how much more money? How much? What's the... So for Aloma, we had to do the funding that way, and MBO Capital came on board, and they did their best. They are doing their best, I think, as we continue on that journey. If I do it again, I'll do it differently. I will not roll camera before the funding is 100%. It has been, and I'll confess to that here, it's been very emotionally challenging for me. Many aspects of it where we've raised a chunk of the money, we go and do this, and then, if we don't raise this now, we're going to shut down, or this is going to happen. There is that, and all that process has taken from me more than I wish. So when I do it again, I want the money complete in the bank before
you start.
Which is firmly because that's how I was trained in Amaka Igwe Studios. We never did anything without complete funding. But this is the first time I am MTV Sugar. My money was in the bank before I moved, So this is the first time I'm working at this level where the money isn't complete. And I have to, the money was coming as we were going along, and it's had its own challenges and led to some of the things. But I am positive that when we're done, this will just be things we remember. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for how my friends have come in. I'm grateful for the work MBO has done. Fola Jimmy Ali Balogun, Adekunle Adebi, Peace, they've been amazing to me personally. And let's just trudge on, let's get this done, and all of that,
What did the way you finance these projects? I know you've hinted a bit at some of that. What did it force you to change in how you work? Then, relatedly, you know what you said. What is the state of liquidity in the industry? Like, if I'm doing a project and I run out of money, what are my most realistic options? I know you're possibly familiar with the John Wick story, how they ran out of money and Ivan Longoria to write them with.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of Ivan Longorias around here that are going to write to you change.
And
the actors.
Accidentally was one of the best investments she ever made because the film went on. So what's the liquidity state like?
It's a challenging environment even now. It felt a bit less challenging with Netflix and Amazon in town. and we'll talk about that. I'm sure you have questions about that. But the way it's been raised, what it is done. I consider myself a strategist first and foremost, right? And that's the thing that I couldn't do fully here, because you strategize when you're funding, funding, so we can say
Funding is secure.
funding is secure. So this and this and this is how we map out. This and this and this. But if you're going and you're doing it and it's enough at this time, but in 2 weeks' time I'm going to need this, and then it's not there and all of that. What that begins to challenge is how you're thinking on a daily basis, and how you have to pull yourself out from the art you're creating, from the work you're doing, to put your brain quickly back in the financing and to hold those meetings and to hope. And then this, and then you recalibrate. It's a lot of back and forth that then does not allow for the proper strategizing that you could do. State of liquidity, I think that there is money. Nigerians tend to forget that when we did Half of a Yellow Sun all those years ago, the budget was $10 million.
And it was raised.
And it was raised locally.
I remember.
And that's how long ago? That's well over a decade ago.
Well over a decade, yeah.
We raised it here. So there are people who are liquid. I think that the challenge might also be is that long-term money tends to be lacking in the industry. Like the circle will probably be 24 to 36 months from investment to expectations of returns, right? You probably need money that is longer than 10 years. If this industry has money that is longer than 10 years, you can take bigger bets.
Yeah.
You can take bigger bets. And that's what's part of the challenge. We took bets you could see at the level of production when you knew that Netflix was going to pay for it. You can already see a pullback on bigger bets now in the industry. Aloma is probably one of the big films made in the last 12 months. 3 years ago, there would have been something this person is doing, that person. There would have been 5, 6, 7 Alomas. When we were shooting Aloma last year, a lot of the people that had set up to shoot, everyone shut down. That they were not going to take that risk again. We said, we can. Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
So liquidity, there is, if you're doing small things and you want to take a loan, there's always someone willing to give you a loan at ridiculous interest rates. Yeah. But if you're looking at investments and equity, we need longer term money. We need longer term money for this industry to really, really work.
Quick question before we continue. As of today, I know you're still doing post-production.
Yeah.
As of today, what's your target date for Aloma to be out in cinemas? And
the target is October.
Okay.
We want to be in the cinemas by October. We want to have locked down whatever streaming deal we would have by then. We should have done a few markets and all of that. Yeah.
Okay. So how does it work these days now? So basically, if you're in, say let's assume you go into cinemas, say 1st of October, Independence Day. How long would it be in cinemas, and then when does streaming happen, if everything goes to plan?
It will depend on what the streamers what their schedules are like. But you will do at least a month, depending on how then it catches. You do at least a month in the cinemas, and then you do your streaming deals, which comes, and then you do your market deals for other regions and all of that. A project like Aloma is the kind of project you will take your time distributing and finding partners. You do the big ones, and then you find small pockets everywhere, and then
Okay. All right, cool. So, you've defended Nollywood fiercely, but you've also been very frank about its weaknesses, So in the last 20 years, where has the industry genuinely improved that you can think about? Is it, writing, acting, cinematography, sound, all that kind of stuff? And where is still there so much work to be done?
I mean, I think that Nollywood is not insulated from what happens globally.
Mm.
Don't forget the origins of how Nollywood started. Technology had something to do with it.
Mm.
Nollywood started, okay, there are those who would listen and watch and fight over when did Nollywood start? Because as you know, we Nigerians can't do without some ethnic, whatever, fight over something.
Yeah.
Okay. There's the school that says Nollywood kicked off with Kenneth Nebwe's Living in Bondage.
Yep.
In the 90s.
In the 90s. Nollywood is not the totality of Nigerian filmmaking. Nollywood is a branch of Nigerian filmmaking. These days, because it is big, everybody tends to come under the umbrella. But we also know that Bollywood is not all of Indian filmmaking. Films are made in 53 languages or thereabouts in India. There are film industries in India that are so anti-Bollywood. They don't even want to see Bollywood. You know, they take themselves rather more serious than that. Okay. So if we take, and there are those that say long before Living in Bondage, films had been made and distributed through VHS, which is true. Alade Aromire had done a lot of work. You would remember Ajeni Yami, for instance, which was a hit, and all of that. Okay, that's also true. But just for sake of clarity and to just have a takeoff point, let us use Kenneth Nebwe's Living in Bondage as the takeoff point. One of the things that led to how all of that then happened is because video cassettes were getting redundant.
Yeah.
So
talking about the tape,
the tape. Technology was moving
away from there.
So those guys in the market, Alaba, you remember every time there was a Nollywood film advert, it was always Alaba Market, Ibinkwejo Lane, Pound Road, Weka Road. Those were markets. And those guys were getting video cassettes from their suppliers in bulk. And those are the video cassettes you would go and buy if you were getting married to record or you were doing a naming ceremony. Now they needed to shift those video cassettes quicker than the one for you.
Because the technology was dying out. Okay.
So one of the things they did was to put movies in the cassette so they could sell them in bulk. That's one of the origin stories of Nollywood. Because people needed to sell more VHS tapes. So they used films to sell more tapes. Sounds ridiculous. It won't happen elsewhere, but that's Nigeria for you. So that's one of it. Now, technology, so to your question, over the past 20 years, what has happened again is because the change of technology globally has also affected the industry in a positive way. We have access to cheaper global standard technology now, from cameras to lights. When I started, we used to use what we called red light. You have to stop shooting, and what we say dab dab, the makeup person would have towel, so we come dab dab because you would have been sweating because the lights were so harsh. Now nobody uses those lights.
So now you have red cameras.
You have red cameras, you have LED lights, you have lights that you can put 10 of them in this room, nobody will sweat at all. We have microphones now, we are talking and there is noise there, whatever. This would have been echo mug is what we used to say. Once there is noise, you hear your sound person say, DP, echo mug. So we have to wait for the sounds to pass. Right now, with better equipment, we have access to better editing software. Now we have, at some level, we can do anything anyone can do elsewhere. There may be higher levels of stuff, but you can pretty much do anything anyone can do elsewhere with this. So that has helped technically. I say, and that's brilliant. A lot more people have gone to film school.
Okay.
I am not the biggest advocate for film schools. For directors, I think editors, cinematographers, absolutely. Directors, I'm not too sure. I think that the director you are is the person you are. So I want directors to be psychologists. I want them to be sociologists, to understand, to be philosophers, to understand human endeavor and all of that. You make better films that way. But there are key things we haven't improved upon. We haven't improved upon our storytelling. And we talked about that earlier. We also haven't, I think, if we need one school in Nollywood and someone gave me money, I'll do an acting school. Our actors still rely too heavily on talent and not on craft. There is a training gap for actors. We are leaving the directors and the producers to do too much work that could have been easily done just by the actors. So this is a challenge. I remember you once said something like, when you see characters in many Nollywood films, you see persons and not characters. Yeah, that's part of the problem. You know, that's part of the problem. So the industry has continued to be phenomenal. We have had major advances. We've done all of that. But there are key areas. And then there is, of course, distribution, which many people will say is no longer a problem. We have YouTube, we did Netflix, we did this, we did that. Yeah. But we tend to do one at the same time. When we were on Netflix, it looked as if Nollywood existed only on Netflix and Amazon Prime. Now it looks as if Nollywood exists only on YouTube. It's not true. And all of that is because Nollywood has never truly had the one platform that continued to exist irrespective of changes anywhere else. And I have said, and I have said this 1,001 times, and I'll continue to say it. And that's because our public service broadcast has not worked. The thing around Nollywood's neck is the NTA. That's the thing around Nollywood. And Nollywood will continue to grow and do the best it can. But in my opinion, it will not achieve its fullest potentials for as long as the NTA does not work. It won't. And it's easy to make the example. Every film tradition anywhere in the world first has its basis taken care of by its public broadcaster. So it's the BBC and ITV and Channel 4. And then it's PBS and CBS in the US. It's SABC in South Africa. Nigeria has none. And it does two things, actually three. One, it trains your practitioners. Because if the NTA spends 10 billion a year on content, commissioning and licensing in Nigeria, and 10 billion, please let us understand, is not 10 billion naira. It's not a lot of money.
Of course.
If NTA just spends that every year, what it does is, if you want to be a filmmaker or a TV actor, writer, producer, you already know you have an in. There is somewhere that is local. And NTA does not have to do it at network level only, at state level, at whatever level. That's one. Two, it trains the taste bud of your citizens. In the 80s, the NTA entertained me 4 times a night. There was something on the NTA network on Thursday and on Sunday. Local NTA, we were talking about Kotonou or Abijawara. They were not an NTA network. Those were NTA Oyo, NTA Channel 7, Lagos, that were doing those.
I can never forget Magana Jariche. So I was growing up in Kaduna. I watched that growing up.
And there was New Masquerade, which was shot in. People think that, you know, we are doing studio things and it's new. New Masquerade was shot in a studio lot in Enugu. So New Masquerade was coming from Enugu. Magana Jariche from the north. There was Yoruba was doing. The NTA did all of it. Was doing it.
I mean, I'm writing a book on interpreters now, and you know, one of the things I tried to do was Ichoku. It was all in Enugu.
So we had that was done by the NTA. And a lot of the people that started Nollywood were all NTA trained. Chris Ihidero, who directed Living in Bondi, went to film school in the US and was with the NTA. Okechukwu Ogunjiofe, who produced it, went to TV college in Jos. So this idea that illiterates started Nollywood is nonsense. It has always been nonsense. All the actors came from TV, right? They were people we were familiar with. They just came into another medium. So for as long as we do not have a public strategy for the industry, nothing else we do will actually scale at the level it can scale. And for the life of me, I don't understand why they don't see, because this is easy money the government is leaving on the table. It is easy money. So you would train your people, you would standardize the taste board of your people, and you will make money, and you don't do it. Nollywood, even in the last 20 years, we have never historically been able to get a product that is wanted by everybody to 10% of its potential market. At no point in time, even in the 90s when Nollywood was selling to everybody, at no point in time has Nollywood been able to sell to 10%. And what is 10%? Let us assume that every Nigerian wants to watch a Nollywood film, and let us go to Ghana and the rest of Africa and the Caribbeans and the Black diaspora and all. Probably are looking at 1.2 billion people.
Yeah.
At no time has Nollywood sold to 100 million people. Forget, at no time has Nollywood sold to 2 million people on any consistent basis. Just think about that. We are all here defined by Nollywood in one way or the other. If someone approaches you in a city in Europe that does not have a major black population, and you say you are Nigerian, and the person says, oh, the next thing that would follow would either be football, Afrobeat, or Nollywood.
Nollywood, yeah.
That's it. So we have this product. It does my head in for you. We have this product that everybody likes, and we have never been able to get it to them in any large number on a consistent basis. How does that make sense? And one of the ways you do that is to have your public broadcast. Everybody sees the UK and you say, oh, it's costume dramas and police procedurals. And that's true. A chunk of all the content, all the drama content on the BBC is either costume drama or police procedurals. And they do them very well. That is the public service dictating our taste. And you see ITV try to do it differently, but they end up with more police procedurals.
Yeah.
So where is how we are defining our own taste here? Where is it? And we have not been able to do it at any time forever. It does my head in. So yes, there have been improvement, but you would always see that there will be spikes, but we would return to where we are now just because Netflix and Amazon re-strategized. They just re-strategized. They are still taking films, not as many as they used to, but they are. Just that rethinking around their strategy, and it looks like Nollywood is dead. And now everybody is on YouTube, and people are saying, oh, so Nollywood has returned to form. It's only YouTube it can do. What do you think those actresses and actors should do? Would you rather they prostitute? Would you rather Funke Akindele prostitute rather than have 30 seasons of Jennifer on YouTube? Funke Akindele was telling me 7 years ago, YouTube on Sanwo. 7 years ago, everybody makes it sound like YouTube is a recent phenomenon.
It's been around, yeah.
It's been around. It's been paying people forever. And there's something about YouTube that meets with the Nigerian spirit, the Nigerian can-do spirit. YouTube says, do you think this thing you want to do is worthy and people would like it? You say yes. YouTube said, okay, go and put it on. If truly it is worthy and enough people watch it, we'll give you money. What could be more Nigerian than that? That's a definition of what it means to be Nigerian. Nigerians like trade. Oh, you mean if I bring this thing, you give me money? Yes. If people watch it enough, I will give you money. And people take it there, and all of a sudden, everybody is shouting at Chalugo because all money, it did whatever. And now everybody thinks, oh, it is a grind. It is hard work to get 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours to join the YouTube partnership program. It's not easy, but it fits with the Nigerian spirit. South Africa is not getting things on YouTube at the rate at which. What is the South African YouTube film channel that you follow? There is something about Nigerians that say, you are sure you give me this money if I bring this thing. How many do you say you wanted? Once per week. And you give me money. Oh, yeah, wait. Oh, yeah, wait. Yeah. And they're going to get it done. So, and somehow the government of this land has not looked at that spirit and say, oh, okay, we are going to create this channel and it will be global for YouTube-like Nigerian films. Oh yeah, come on. You have a YouTube channel, Abi. Oh yeah, as you make one for your channel, make one for us. But don't worry, we are going to go and sit that channel with PBS in the US, you know, and we are going to, and we all live in England, Abi. The diaspora audience in Nigeria, when you go and do your shift work and you get home at 4 or at whatever time, what else are you going to do? Where are you going to go to in that weather? You're at home.
I mean, a couple of years ago, my mom had it was minor eye surgery, so for a while she had to, you know, basically someone needed to be with her. So you know, I told her to come stay with me, and I was amazed at the stuff she was watching on YouTube. You know, like I mean, my mom's a Christian,
Yeah.
all Christians, but it was long episodes, so they're like season 30 or something. We both know Kule Adebi.
Yeah.
I remember the first time he told me that there are some people that are releasing movies every Friday on YouTube, and this is just Yoruba movies. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, that entrepreneurial spirit, like you said, and you know, the reward is there. If they are not getting any reward,
They won't be there. They won't be there. This is not. They are not sharing the gospel. You say it's a purely it's a trade. If I bring this bag of rice tomorrow, how many bags? We need 1,000 bags. So if I bring it, you pay me. Yes, it's the same thing with films, and there is not a problem with that. There is not a problem with it, because for me, sometimes we are not cognizant of our privileges when we talk about, and I find a lot of that when people talk about, say, Funke Akindele. Who is Funke Akindele's father? Funke Akindele is probably the first Akindele most people know. She came from quote and unquote nothing. Do you know what she has built? And then people would say Funke Akindele makes this kind of films. You are not our audience. That's fine. Let our audience watch what she makes. And let them pay her for it. And she has changed her life. She has changed people's lives. Ask people like Kamo, ask people like Eniola Badmus who are close to her. She's been amazing in that. Is she perfect? Obviously not. Are there people who have complaints? Of course there will be people. Have they said she's difficult to work with? It tends to be like all successful women are difficult to work with. Have they? Yeah, so big deal. Does she has things she needs to fix? Maybe. But can we for a minute recognize the entrepreneurial spirit that has taken this young woman we all met on I Need to Know as maybe a 16-year-old to what she has become now? Can we focus on that? And can we understand what that means? You know, and how YouTube has allowed that to happen, and how the cinemas have helped her to make that happen. So when we make these conversations, and in all of this, she lives in a place where she's been continuously failed by the public, that the responsibility of the NTA is to entertain the public. It's by law the responsibility of the NTA to buy. Have you read the Nigerian Broadcast Code? By the Nigerian Broadcast Code, you should not sell airtime. If you enter to put this show on TV, you have to go and buy airtime unless someone commissions you. So you do the product, then you buy airtime to show it so that you can have adverts and make your money back. How? You don't get a TV license in Nigeria because you can afford it. You get it in trust on behalf of citizens. The president has to sign it. That's how you get a TV license. You get it in. So technically, your airtime belongs to the people you are selling it to. Make it make sense.
Well, I mean,
So go come to.
listening to you, I perhaps I speak for a lot of Nigerians who say you're hoping that the government is going to do this or that, maybe in the future, not immediate. I mean, you've talked about the NTA. Other than what it should be doing, there's a whole lot of IP, billions of dollars worth of IP that the NTA is sitting on and probably rusting and wasting away in some bathroom archive somewhere. right? But I wonder that, given the structure of the industry, is there a big studio workaround to this public investment question? So I know he has a lot of rich friends. See, and they put together $100 million.
Yeah.
Say, of, like you said, for patient capital.
Yeah.
10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. Do you think that would change things structurally? That's the first part of my question, because I have a problem with the Netflix Amazon model.
So let me quickly answer this and get it out of the way. It is possible on one condition. Consumers must be able to access whatever content they make free at the point of consumption.
Okay.
If it requires a subscription model, it will fail. One of the reasons YouTube succeeds is because there's no subscription.
Yeah.
Once you have data, you can watch. The moment there has to be a subscription model, there's going to be a challenge, because that subscription becomes how you get revenue. So you model towards it. But what you should be modeling towards is consumption. See?
Yeah.
That's where the challenge is. That is why I insist that it has to be public trust. Because the government of Nigeria has actually spent money on Nollywood. I just think they spent it wrongly. The Bank of Industry has done a lot of work and has given money to the industry. Some as loan, some as grants. The CBN had an initiative. Remember, under President Goodluck Jonathan, there was a lot.
Yeah.
Why haven't we seen that work massively? I have a theory. There is no film industry in the world that has been made successful by grants. There is a problem with grants, and I have done a lot of work by grants, but those MTV Sugar was grants, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, NACA, they were the ones that gave money. But you were not, the profit was not in a return of investment, of money. The profit was in the message you were sharing.
Yeah.
So they are behavioral change drama. That's fine. But if you are doing anything where you expect returns from, you cannot run it with grants.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have taken those grants. You take 40 people to one university to train them for a month to be directors. That 1 month training anywhere in the world does not make anybody a director. See, I would rather they took all that money and focused it on commissioning. They should say to us the way YouTube says, are you sure you are very good? Okay, this year we have 10 billion. For 52 episode drama series, 1 hour, you are going to get X 200 million, 250 million. For 30 minutes, this is where you upload it. Please upload a screener for us. If we like it enough, we'll be in touch. What happens all of a sudden? Production companies begin to say, don't even shoot all of it, shoot a pilot. Or don't shoot, send us your pilot script. If we like your pilot script enough, we will commission you. A 24-year-old Amaka Igwe created Checkmate. She was 24. And she got a deal with the NTA. Under Peter Yo.
Yes, I remember Peter Yo.
And they went to, I think it is Linters, the advertising agent, which is why Amaka Igwe owned the copyright for Checkmate, because it wasn't owned by NTA, because it was funded through advertising. Yeah. She was 24.
Yeah, Peter Ego was a maverick. So growing up in Kaduna, our neighbor just was actually a flight lieutenant Ego. So he was his brother.
Okay.
So we got to meet. I met a real maverick. I mean, all kinds of
from cockcrow at dawn. People don't. Cockcrow at dawn was done to encourage Nigerians to go into farming. That's what it was done by I've forgotten the agency's name now. They used drama. This same NTA did all of that. And suddenly, the NTA stopped and started importing telenovelas. The Rich Also Cry and the ones. And then that led to the death of commissioned projects on the NTA in the early 90s and led to the birth of Nollywood. Because a chunk of the things that became Nollywood films when Nollywood started were scripts that were supposed to go to the NTA. So Nollywood started, and the NTA never went back.
So which then brings me to that question that suppose you have this investment, you have this big studio structure. Is the question of the market.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're putting $200 million into something, you're expecting maybe a tenfold kind of return, say over 10 years.
Yeah.
Do we have, because I mean, I looked at some of the challenges you've described about even your project, running out of money. And I mean, my mind flashed to maybe Nolan's deal with Universal. Yeah. I cannot make any film for less than 100 million.
Yes.
Right? Funding is secure. But also, you look at, he could sign that deal, or Universal can sign that deal because he has a catalog that has done $1 billion in the market.
Yeah.
Right? So the market versus the investment sort of dilemma that always plagues Nigeria, which is I'm putting money, but is there a market for it? Am I going to make my money?
Okay, so again, let's do numbers and let's do what is available and not our dream. I was head writer for Hush on Africa Magic in 2015. Hush was a phenomenal success. It was a telenovela, 260 episodes. So every weekday, 30 minutes, 260 episodes. I don't know how much the budget was. Unconfirmed rumors added that in 2015 money, it was about 1.2 billion naira.
Okay.
The budget. Unconfirmed rumors. I don't have the facts. I never saw the budget. But I was head writer and my salary was 750K. And I still got paid for every workshop, and we did 6 workshops.
750K per month?
Per month.
Okay.
750K per month was my salary. And I still got paid every time we did a workshop, and I got paid for every script I wrote myself. Please put those numbers in mind. Now, since then, I have not earned any residual income. This is nobody's fault. I didn't sign a contract that said I had access to residual income. So, however, Hush has now been dubbed into, I think, 3 languages and continues to run till today. That's 11 years later. It's still running. And there are adverts still on it. Someone called me and said, you did not, I'm an older friend in his 70s. You did not tell me you did work with Africa Magic. I'm just watching your show now. I said, which show? He said, something, Hush. I said, in which language? He said, you're watching it in Yoruba. It's been 10 years. Do you think that Hush has returned 1.2 billion or not?
Far in excess. Yeah.
By the time we were done running that first year, it had more than. So what I'm saying is, if there is long-term investment, and you can take that same Hush and put it in French, and you will sell in Francophone Africa. You can put it in Portuguese, because in fact, I think a French dub was done. And you can put it in Portuguese, and you can now take it. I have already said there are people in Brazil. When I went to deliver the opening address at a Nollywood Film Festival in Brazil in 2014, the last Nollywood film they had seen was Blackberry Babes. And the guys were saying to me that, why don't you people bring your film? You know, they had a club. And I was like, why are we not here? Why are we not in Jamaica? The back end of my YouTube channel suggests to me that we have a huge audience waiting for us in the Caribbean. Where is the target to go and sell to those people specifically? So the return of the money, I don't see a problem with it if it is long term. There is the capacity. Nigeria is the most populous Black nation in the world. It is.
It's also for the poorest.
Yes, but what you need to consume Nollywood, we are not selling MacBooks here. Nollywood films are not iPhones. Do you understand? They are not monthly subscription to whatever. It's how much is it? It's not a lot of money to consume a Nollywood film. Even if you went to the cinema and you spent 10,000 naira, that's £5. That's £5. The problem is we are expecting all of its money to come from here. Meanwhile, it has a durable audience.
Yeah.
And we continue to expect all his money to come from here. Even the YouTube you were saying, a third of the people watching Nigerian films on YouTube are Nigerians and Africans and Caribbeans in the diaspora. What is lacking, it's a strategy that says, where are these eyeballs? How do we get to them? People used to want to watch Nollywood films in England in the 90s, and people had to travel in their personal luggage to take films to them. At what point, when all the DVD stores, Virgin stores and all were major, did Nollywood get into them?
I have a funny story about that. So I think the first time I went to Singapore, I think it was in 2012. So we had a friend who was living there. She was like, oh, please help us bring some Nollywood DVDs, right? So while we were on the plane, then they handed us this flyer about what you can and should not bring into Singapore. And then next thing I saw, like, you cannot bring movies. And so my wife and I were panicking, like, this is like, I know those guys are very, very strict.
Yeah.
So as soon as we got off the plane, we just immediately went to go and look for a customs officer and just reported ourselves that, hey, we have this Nollywood DVD. So the guy looked at that, no problem, and just left us going. But yeah, it was. I'm now thinking about it, this was 14 years ago.
This was 14 years ago.
We in Singapore did not have a way to get, so you had to actually physically bring.
So I mean, our theme on the show on the publication was all about exports. So I have no problem with that. I'm just thinking that perhaps maybe you need a very robust domestic market. So I'll give you an anecdote. I was a couple of years ago, I was speaking to a South African musician who was booked to come play a show in Nigeria for $50,000. And this is not a big artist. And he flat down turned out check because it was like, okay, I'm going to fly, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, come to Nigeria. By the time I deduct all my costs, it's not worth it. I can make 10K a night on a Friday night playing in Johannesburg, in clubs.
Yeah.
So it's not worth it for me. Why do I have to travel all the way to Nigeria? Because there is a domestic market.
Yeah.
It might not, in the size might vary and all that. So that's kind of like the way I see that holding us back in YouTube. And like you said earlier, it's not disconnected from what's going on in the economy.
Oh, yeah.
Like you want to talk, like
It's a problem.
is the country safe?
Yeah.
Yeah, no cameras, location. You have to use your street connect,
Yeah.
for example, to
Yeah.
shoot. It's not a case of you can get a public permit.
You get a public permit, but they will be there when they're about speeches. They will do in their offices. Yeah, you will still be on. You have to hire your own police.
Yeah, just
Hire your own police. The answer to that is that same musician. Did you remember to tell that same musician that in December, when banks do their own end of year party, that it would have made a lot more than $50,000, and that our artists we pay them a lot more than $50,000 when bank. The problem is that same bank. If you went to them during the year and you said that I want to bring this artist and this artist wants 500K, and this is how we can structure whatever, they will say no. For their end of year party, they will pay Davido or Wizkid or Burna to come and do whatever. Again, is that nobody has seen, and I know that our mutual friend Adekunle, they are building some entertainment, whatever. If I'm in London every night, I have access to 240 performances, from plays to musicals to whatever. Where is it? So we keep saying Nigerians cannot afford it. Okay, Nigerians can afford a Fuji, whatever on the street, right? At least we don't think that. How many of them do we organize though? If the entry requirement is 2 bottles of or 1 bottle of any gin or whatever it is, all these things in green bottle that they drink, would they not buy it? Is the shrine not always full?
Yeah.
And those Nigerians.
Organization is
They are
absolutely
yeah, because we are a phenomenal people. We are not a structural people. Things that are phenomenal are easy for us to do. Things that are structured, that depend on being on growing in bits over a long period are boring. We do not have the patience. We are probably collectively autistic and have ADHD as if collectively, you know, and I mean, I have family members who are autistic, so this is no shade, but we do not have the patience to grow anything over a long term. No, but if we are like fuel to fire, if you can pray it and it blows now, we are there. But if we had made the mistake of planning and strategizing to begin Nollywood, it would not have existed. It will never have.
It needed to be born in chaos.
Be born in chaos. We are chaotic that way. So the answer to the questions you're asking are that we need to now find some structure to our madness. So our true growth and development will come, which was why it looked like for a minute we had it about under Obasanjo, because madness for madness, it met us, and then it forced us. Look at telephony. Just look at that as a success story. It didn't happen because we suddenly knew how to. No, it was like, this thing is going to be done. However, it's going to be done. This thing is going to be done. And private enterprise then took over the rest. That's the kind of thing you need.
The leadership story in that success is still underrated.
Yes.
I will forever be grateful to NS.
Yes.
Who insisted that no, we just have to let the market work.
And that is a sort of is a type of madness to the theory of we're laughing.
And in many things that have to do with Nigeria, I need lots of worry consistently, because you are dealing with a rather mad bunch of people. You cannot then, if someone becomes DG of NTA today and says that in 12 months, every weeknight at 8 p.m., there would be a Nigerian drama on TV. That's what it needed. We thought we had it, and I would mention his name. We thought we had it with Ben Bruce when Obasanjo gave all that money. But instead, Mr. Bruce went and built more NTA, what's it called? Every state had an NTA
station.
NTA stations were being built here, there, and everywhere.
We were distracted.
Where is the content? Where is the content to feed all of that place? And I would have thought that from a common sense place, that should have been obvious. That the hardware wasn't going to be it. It had to be the software, which is the content. Where is it?
I mean, what part of Nollywood culture, so would you preserve at all costs, right? I mean, we've talked a lot about its weaknesses and all of that, but what part of that, the Nollywood culture, will you say, okay, in this emerging future where all these things you're talking about happen, but I would like to take this exactly as it is from today and then take it into the emerging future?
I would like Nollywood to remain what it is by and large. That is, its storytelling style, its performances when it is at its best, its loose structures. I would like it to retain. I never want to see the day when Nollywood becomes Hollywood. I never want to see the day where Nollywood becomes Francophone African filmmaking. We don't need to. Nollywood does not have to become Sembene or Dio. No, we need to have those that exist at that level, and we have had Abba Makama, CJ Obasi. We've always had people in Nollywood who wanted to make films differently at a certain level. That is also fine. What is not fine is to ask all of us to jettison that which is working for a large chunk of our population and the people in the diaspora, so that we can look more like Hollywood and win Oscars. Oscars are fine if they come, but South Africa won Oscar in the 90s. They still don't have the film industry we have. They are way better technically. I go there all the time for finishing. I accept. But there is not one South African actor that you would run to at any airport on the continent and you have a crowd screaming at him. And they will do so for our Aki and Popo. They will do so if Rita Dominic works anyway. Genevieve will be mocked. And that there is value in that.
Yeah.
And sometimes we snare at that value because our elitist pretensions do not allow us to see it as value. If it doesn't measure up to Hollywood, then it's not good enough. But who made Hollywood the standard? And this is not as a lack of appreciation for what Hollywood is. And we will always have our own filmmakers who would attempt that and would succeed at that level. That's fine. Nigerians have won Oscar. The Nigerian DP was nominated for Oscars maybe 30 years ago, who is also British. We are fine. We'll do that. But Nollywood, for what it is at its core, has value. We just need to readjust our perception of value and understand that sometimes value does not come packed in Americanese. It doesn't come packed in Britishness. No, sometimes it comes packed in Igbo. And sometimes it is packed in Pidgin and in Yoruba and in our culture and in who we are. The MVC is just held. I'm sure you must have heard who won what or what. But if you go on Instagram, it has become a culture for foreign fashion, whatever people to review.
Yeah, it's been interesting this year.
To review the fashion at AMVC, because Nigerians will come correct.
Yeah.
Forget whether they win or not. They will come correct to the traditional night and to the award. Maybe the awards is now about the fashion. You may not like it. That's fine. Those who won went home with the award. Can the rest of us party? We are not so. We are really serious people. What is then this? Sometimes we gauge Nollywood by its ability to climb a tree when it's a fish that just swims. And then we standardize it because, why can't you climb a tree? Why can't you fly? I'm just a fish. I just swim.
Many days.
Yeah, and Nollywood suffers from that all the time. You go to conferences abroad, and all these people are like, how are you guys making this thing? How are you spending this? How are you doing it? Then the Nigerians will be there. That Nigerian has made one film in 30 years. The idiot should be somewhere hiding in shame. But you have the largest opinion. In my time, when we were making films, we're not like what they're doing now. Uncle, shut up. Shut up. We know your career. The one film you made is you and your family members that watched it. You can't tell a story to save your freaking life. And sometimes those are the voices people listen to as the standards for Nollywood. No.
Okay. I'll close with a couple of questions. So, one question about two parts. So basically, at this stage of your career, after Amaka, after television, after journalism, after training younger storytellers, and finally after making Aloma, what are you still trying to prove, and to who? And secondly, what do you want people to take away from Aloma when they see it, when it comes out in October?
Prove. I have never needed or wanted to prove anything to anybody. If you left it to me, I will be in hiding. I don't even want. I've spent a lot of money not to be a celebrity. I hate it when people recognize me. I just want to hide. But my name, people know my name more than they know my face because I don't do red carpets. I don't. I do now because my PR guy puts a gun to my head. But I don't usually do all of those things. I don't have anything to prove. I want to show that, as we did, as Emmanuel Uduma and I did when we did MTV Sugar, that there is excellence here when you fund it properly.
Okay.
And that excellence can be repeated. And that Nigerians are capable of delivering premium. The head of drama at a European streaming network said to me, but Nigerians cannot do premium. I said, sorry. I said, we have a saying that you cannot bring Ogogoro money and expect champagne. That the problem is you fund Ogogoro, but you want champagne. Bring champagne money, I will show you can do premium. And I also put up my hands and say that we had a great chance with Netflix and Amazon, and sometimes we fell short at the level of quality we could have delivered with the kind of access we had to funding at that time. I put my hands up and also confess that that's a possibility, right? But also with that, there are a lot of people here who can deliver quality. So I want Aloma to be that reference point to say, Chris Ihidero had always said that he could do this, and he did it with Aloma. And Aloma becomes a reference point for anyone that has a dream and wants to do things properly and wants to take big bets and wants to move to that next level. And Aloma becomes that film that says, you know what? Chris always said he could do this and he did it. I can too. That will probably be the best. When people see it, I hope they have fun seeing it. And I hope that my own social concerns that are in it, which is what every filmmaker is, you tell, the film you make is who you are. And I didn't run away from who I am to make this film. So I'm hoping that anyone that sees it sees who I am and my concerns about the country I still live in, by and large. and my concerns and my worries, but also my joy and my happiness and how much I think this country is a big deal if we could just all gather and put in place the little things that can fix it. Nigeria to me is as Nollywood is to me. What you need to fix Nigeria, what you need to fix Nollywood is not a lot. How much did Netflix spend in Nigeria? How much do you think?
I remember seeing the report. It wasn't.
It is the sandwich and coffee budget of any big Nollywood film, any big Hollywood film.
Yeah.
All the money they spent in Nigeria.
Yeah.
If that small, I mean, this is not to say it wasn't significant.
Yeah.
It was, and it helped us a great deal. And I'm eternally grateful for the Amazon Primes and the Netflix and what they did or what they are doing in Nigeria, right? But it's not it's nothing that your favorite billionaire not have done. It's nothing, your favorite could have done and structured properly and would have changed things.
That's the real conversation we should keep.
In fact, it's the conversation I've been having on this trip where people are talking about why don't Nigerian billionaires or people see value in funding this type of stuff that the return might not be immediate, but the payoff over a long term
would be amazing. I mean, we're talking $35 million here.
Yeah.
It's not.
I find it curious that we have 3 unicorns, at least in the startup sector, and you cannot identify a Nigerian billionaire associated with any of those.
Yeah.
It's so for me, it's as with Nigeria as it is with Nollywood, and I am a believer. I would eternally be one because I have seen Nollywood change lives. Think of Aki and Popo. What would their lives have been without Nollywood? Just think about it. And Nollywood gave them that. And Nollywood continues to give everyone around that. It's not perfect. It's far from perfect. But what it is and what it has done and how it has amazingly changed people's life is worthy of way more celebration and way more kudos than we give to it. And we have to learn. We have to learn that it is possible to criticize something, but also possible to love it for what it is, not necessarily for what we wish it were, but to love it for what it is and to continue to love it until it gets to where we think it should be.
Chris, I'm looking forward to the portrayal of the area boys in Aloma because I know you've spent a lot of time, and I know that the area boys in Aloma will have texture. I don't not just be, so it'll be hopefully. I mean,
I hope we get a promo code for Frontier Matters.
Trust me, you'll get it. Keep praying for us. We are doing it. It's it's one of the things I want to mark. To mark me and my work and my collaborators. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me here. Good to be a fan and then to be on the show.
Thank you. All right, cool.
Thank you.